Ciao amici, benvenuto nel mio canale. Non parlo molto italiano, but I love Italy. What's up everybody, I'm Alex, aka Alex the Vagabond. Welcome to my channel. You know, they say that all roads lead to Rome. Well, it seems like the road that you're on has led to my channel. So welcome. If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on any future videos like this one. In this video, I will be sharing tips for the Eternal City, and some may say the capital of Western civilization, Rome. I've been lucky enough to visit Rome many times in my life, and each time I go, I learn something new. So in this video, I'll be sharing with you 11 tips to make the most of your next trip to Rome. Rome is one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in Europe, and it's nicknamed the Eternal City because during the Roman Empire, the poets like Virgil predicted that Rome would last forever, hence the name the Eternal City. Alas, Rome's fortunes weren't so great. The Roman Empire did not last forever, but let's back things up to 753 BC, the foundation of the city by Romulus and Remus, twin brothers said to have been born from divine heritage Mars, or even potentially Hercules, and raised by a she-wolf, suckled at the nipple of a wild wolf. It does sound fantastical, it does sound like mythology, but who knows, it could be true. How do we wrap up Roman history in 30 seconds? Well, it was first a monarchy, then it became a republic in 509 BC, until Julius Caesar came along and became dictator for life in 44 BC, but he was murdered by angry senators. Et tu, Brute. And then his adopted son became Augustus I, the first Roman emperor. The emperors of Rome ruled until around 400 BC, when Rome was sacked by the Gauls, by the barbarians from the north, and then it slowly dissipated until the Dark Ages. And fast forward 1500 odd years, and here we are watching this video on YouTube. I hope that was a good condensed version of Roman history. Trust me, I would like to blab a much longer on the subject because I am a historian, I am a nerd, and I love Rome. So let's get into some of the more practical tips about visiting Rome today. Rome is the largest city in the Lazio region of central Italy. It can be accessed from 2 airports, although chances are you're probably flying into the Leonardo da Vinci airport. It's pretty easy to make your way from the airport to central Rome. I would suggest you just take the public transportation, the bus, or the train. I took the train, really easy. For 15 or 17 euros, you can take a train directly from Leonardo da Vinci Airport to the Termini station, which is the main station of Rome. Once you're in the city, you can get the Roma Pass, which gives you access for 48 hours or 72 hours, depending on which one you buy, to many of the main sites with a discount on admission and use of public transportation. Important to note though that that pass does not cover transportation to and from the airport. So good, now that we've talked about that, let's talk about the actual tips. We've covered the basics. You've arrived in Rome, and here is tip number 1. Avoid the crowds as best you can. Rome is the 3rd most visited city in Europe with over 8 million visitors a year. Rome has become so popular that it's following a trend in some of the other popular cities like Venice and Barcelona, where new legislation, new laws have been created to try to preserve the quality of life for the locals and essentially rein in over tourism. The best time to visit Rome is in the shoulder season. That's either in the spring or in the fall, when it's not too hot, it's not too cold, and it's not too crowded. I found the best time to visit Rome was during the winter. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but trust me, if you are gonna try to see all of the sights in Rome, the best time to do that is in the early morning. Now, I know you're on vacation, you probably don't wanna wake up super early. It's gonna be a lot less crowded if you get there right when these places open. For sites like the Pantheon, I recommend you go right before they close. They'll let you in up to 30 minutes before closing time, and if you go, let's say with 1 hour left, you're not gonna have as much time to explore, but you're gonna be able to see a lot more because most of the visitors have already been and left, and therefore you're gonna deal with less crowds. Tip number 2, is it worth going inside the Colosseum? I would have to say, if you've never been there, if you've never experienced it, and if you're interested in history, then yes, it is worth going inside the Colosseum at least once in your life. The Colosseum was built in AD 80 by Emperor Vespasian. It held 55,000 people, give or take a little bit, and it is the largest amphitheater ever built anywhere. It's an architectural wonder, and it's worth seeing from the inside and the outside if you can. It was built to give the people of Rome what they wanted. If you were a Roman emperor living a lavish life of luxury, you had to keep the people entertained. Are you not entertained? If you're interested in seeing the nearby Roman Forum, then you can buy a combo ticket, which essentially gives you access to the Colosseum, the Forum, and Palatine Hill. And it's good for, I think, 48 hours, so you don't have to visit all of them in one day, but you have access to all the main ancient Rome sites. If you have to pick your ticket up on site, then head to the ticket office at the Palatine Hill instead of at the Colosseum, because the line is a lot shorter. I guess people don't like walking up hills. I never knew that. Tip number 3, be aware and alert of your belongings and yourself at all times. Rome is not necessarily a dangerous city, but there is a lot of petty crime, most notably pickpocketing and theft. If anybody comes up to you trying to offer you something to sell, or if they have a sign and they're trying to elicit emotion to get something from you, I think it's really just the best call to give them a good firm no thank you, or no grazie, no grazie, no grazie, and hopefully they'll just leave you alone. And if they don't, you can always just kind of move away because there's more fish in the sea for them. Dove il mio hotel? You may be asking yourself that before you book. Where is my hotel? Where should my hotel be? And that is what tip number 4 is all about, where to stay. Accommodation in Rome runs the gauntlet. There are very expensive places to stay. There are pretty cheap places to stay. Pensiones with 1 star, if you get my drift. There's plenty of hostels. You know what your budget is for accommodation, more or less. Let's talk about where to stay. If you're really interested in the history and you want to see as many of the sites as possible, then you should stay near the Centro Storico, the central historic part of the city, but not right in the middle of it, because there are very limited public transportation options and it's really hard to get out of there. So it's better to kind of stay on the periphery of that so you can visit when you want and you can see all the other amazing things that Rome has to offer. Esquilino is located near the Termini station, and it's also one of the most multicultural areas of the city, full of plenty of great cafes and bars, plus easy access to transportation. Monti is located between the Colosseum and the Via Nazionale. It's a great place to stay if you're going to be visiting all of the historic sites, plus it's known for its awesome little wine bars. I stayed in this area last time with Carrie and I highly recommend it. You gotta close this one. That one. Oh. Okay. Andiamo. Now, getting stuck in an elevator of this size. Well, at least I'm stuck in here right now.
Don't even say it.
Also, you have Prati, which is located near Vatican City. It's a much quieter, more residential area. It's definitely the spot to stay if you want to get a taste of what life in Rome really is like for the people who live there. Tip number 5, wander and get lost. Not all who wander are lost, just some of them. And in Rome, it doesn't really matter if that's you, because it's literally an open air museum. There are so many amazing things to see, from ancient Roman artifacts and architecture to incredible, beautiful chapels and churches, that it doesn't really matter what you do in Rome, you're gonna have a good time. So be open to getting lost, wander around, put your phone away, ask for directions from locals, and learning a couple of little phrases in Italian will go a long way. Like grazie mille, thanks a million, or thanks 1,000, I don't really know. It sounds like a million. Non parlo molto italiano. I don't speak a lot of Italian. Tip number 6, where to eat. If you want to experience the best cuisine in Rome, then you're gonna have to move away from the tourist center. Just like most big touristy cities, the places that cater to tourists primarily don't have the best food. You're gonna wanna find little osterias and little restaurants in small neighborhoods that cater to the locals and have been doing so for quite some time. Try the Trastevere neighborhood. There's lots of great little bars and osterias there. Rome has always been a center of commerce, and where there's commerce, there is cuisine and lots of different influences. Its cuisine is more varied than other regions of Italy. Here are some dishes that you should definitely check out when you visit Rome. You can try pasta alla gricia, which is like a carbonara but without eggs. Also, make sure you try fiore di zucca, which is the flower of the zucchini plant. They usually stuff it with like ricotta cheese or some sort of cured meats or even artichoke hearts, and then they bread it and like fry it, and it is so good. Tip number 7. Do as the Italians do. Enjoy an after lunch riposo, essentially a little siesta. Most of the stores close down for a couple of hours after lunch. You as well can take advantage of this kind of dead zone by just taking a nap. Head back to the hotel, head back to your accommodation, close your eyes, recharge.
This is where the magic happens in this place. Sleep.
The riposo is also great if you've woke up early to avoid the crowds at the popular sites. Go for an aperitivo. This is essentially like a little snack or an appetizer that you have at a bar before you go to dinner. Dinner in Italy, like many places in Southern Europe, is a bit later than what we're used to in the United States or in Northern Europe. Italians like to sit down for a meal anywhere from 9 p.m. till even later, 10 or 11 sometimes. Just be prepared to wait a little bit later, eat a little bit later, and enjoy the evenings in Italy because it's good. Tip number 8, visit the lesser known sites. Like I've said, Rome is essentially a giant open air museum, but there's a lot more to see than just the Colosseum and the Forum. You could check out the Circus Maximus, for example. If you've seen the old classic film Ben-Hur, then you know what I'm talking about. Make sure you check out the Piazza del Popolo, known as the People's Square. It was the ancient entrance into the city of Rome. And if you're feeling really adventurous, head to the Ostia Antica, which was Rome's old port. It's now about 2 kilometers away from the ocean, but it's essentially the river mouth of the river Tiber, and it was where Rome's trading and commerce happened. It was the port for the city of Rome. Tip number 9 is to wear comfortable shoes. Rome is an old city. Most of the streets are cobblestone. When I do trips to places where there's lots of walking, like Rome for example, I will usually just wear a comfortable pair of sneakers. You'd be surprised, if you spend a day out walking in Rome, you're probably gonna cover between 4 to 6 miles, and you're gonna wanna be wearing good footwear. So definitely wear comfortable shoes. If you don't feel like walking, you can rent a bicycle or get a Metro Pass. Rome does have Uber as well, but it's only Uber Black. There's no Uber X, so it's expensive. If you feel like taking a taxi, I would recommend downloading the My Taxi app, just so you don't get fleeced by your taxi driver driving around in circles, running up the meter. At least with the app, you know where your destination is and you have a GPS to follow. If you're feeling a little more adventurous, download the app Scooterino, where you can essentially order a ride from a dude or a dudette on a scooter. Tip number 10, get high, man. Not like that. I'm talking about elevation, silly. Rome is a city built around hills. Therefore, the higher you go, the better views you get. The Capitoline Hill is probably one of the most famous hills in Rome, and it's part of a combo tour with the Roman Forum and the Palatine Hill. It used to house the Temple of Jupiter, and while that's no longer around, it does still have the world's oldest public museum, the Palazzo Nuovo, which has tons of amazing ancient Greek and ancient Roman artifacts. So if you want more history, check out the museum. it's worth it. The Gianicolo is not one of the famous 7 hills, but it's worth visiting if you are in the mood for a great sunset. It's about a mile away from the Colosseum, just above the Vatican, and it has some interesting sculptures of, people who helped found modern Italy, but apart from the sculptures, it's just a really good place to get a view of the city and the sunset. And finally, tip number 11, visiting the Vatican. It's technically not in Rome, it's its own city and city-state. It's one of the smallest in the world, Vatican City, run by the Pope and the Roman Catholic Church. Over 5 million people visit Vatican City each year, and almost all of them visit the Sistine Chapel. The Sistine Chapel has over 20,000 visitors a day, making it potentially one of the most visited rooms on the planet. If you are going to visit the Vatican, then be prepared to see lots of artwork. The Roman Catholic Church was a huge patron of some of the most famous artists who have ever lived, including Leonardo da Vinci, Raphael. All of the Ninja Turtles, essentially, were given money by the patrons, aka the Pope and the Church. So if you're into art, be prepared to spend quite a bit of time in the Vatican. Also, you're gonna need to dress accordingly. This is a house of worship, so they don't like seeing your knees. That means wearing pants and covering your shoulders is a good call. Also, there is a strict rule, no photography whatsoever. If you're caught taking a photo, they may take your phone/camera, and I don't think they're gonna give it back. So keep your phones away, look at the art, appreciate it in the moment, take a mental snapshot, if you will, and, leave it be. And if you are going to visit the Sistine Chapel, heading there in the late afternoon is probably a better call than going early in the morning or in the middle of the day, because most of the visitors have already seen it and left. So if you want to try to get the Sistine Chapel with less visitors, go towards the end of the day. All right, ladies and gents, those were my tips for the city of Rome, the Eternal City. If you have any tips of your own, please share them down in the comments section. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you have not already, with notifications enabled so you don't miss any future videos. I hope you have a great time in Rome, and remember, please be respectful, please be on good behavior, and enjoy la dolce vita. Ciao amici. Remember, train harder, fail smarter, and never give up. Peace.